Bride Goes Missing Before Wedding, The Sad Case of Annie Lay. This is a story that takes us to the bustling campus of Yale University, one of the most prestigious schools in the country. It's about Annie Lay, a brilliant and kind-hearted student with a bright future ahead of her. But what started as a normal day in her busy life turned into a mystery that shocked everyone who knew her. If you enjoy stories like this, don't forget to subscribe and follow for more detailed and intriguing accounts from Reddit. Let's dive into the details of what happened, the investigation that followed, and the questions that still haunt this case. Annie Lay was born on July 3rd, 1985 in San Jose, California, into a warm and loving Vietnamese American family. Her friendly and gentle nature endeared her to everyone she met, and those who got to know her better were often awestruck by her extraordinary academic brilliance and achievements. Even as a young girl, Annie demonstrated exceptional intelligence and a relentless drive to succeed. She graduated as valedictorian from her high school in El Dorado, California, earning the affectionate nickname Second Einstein from her classmates. Her remarkable academic performance earned her a prestigious full scholarship worth $160,000 to study cellular developmental biology at the University of Rochester in New York. At the University of Rochester, Annie excelled in her studies and graduated with honors in 2008. Her passion for science and dedication to her work opened the doors to a postgraduate program at Yale University. Yale, along with Harvard, is synonymous with academic excellence, being part of the Ivy League, the 8 most prestigious universities in the United States. Annie embarked on a rigorous research journey at Yale, where she was pursuing her PhD in pharmacology. Over 5 years, she focused her research on groundbreaking projects with potential applications in treating diabetes and certain forms of cancer. Her work was primarily conducted in the university's advanced laboratories, where her meticulous approach and intellectual rigor set her apart as a rising star in her field. In addition to her academic and research commitments, Annie contributed actively to her university community. She participated in extracurricular activities and even authored an article for a medical journal addressing the critical issue of campus safety. Titled Crime and Safety in New Haven, the article highlighted concerns and provided insightful recommendations for improving security in the area. Annie's dedication. By 10:11 a.m., Annie was seen walking toward the basement laboratory where she worked. Room G13, her primary workspace, housed her research involving white mice, an integral part of her PhD project. The day passed as usual, with students and faculty bustling about the campus. However, as evening fell, the once busy building grew quiet, with most people heading home for the night. Annie's housemates started to grow concerned when she didn't return home by her usual time. Annie was known for her cautious nature, always mindful of her safety. She avoided walking alone at night or attending events unaccompanied. If she needed to work late, she ensured someone was available to escort her home. It was highly unusual for her to be out of contact for so long. By 10 p.m., Annie had not returned home, and her phone calls went unanswered. Alarmed, her housemates reached out to her friends, hoping someone had heard from her. When no one had, her friends decided to contact the police. This behavior was entirely out of character for Annie, and their concerns grew with every passing hour. Police officers arrived at Annie's lab to investigate her whereabouts. To their surprise, they found her belongings, including her keys, wallet, and phone, left behind in the lab. The discovery was chilling, as it suggested she hadn't planned to leave for long. Further investigation revealed that Annie hadn't used her bank card or phone all day, deepening the mystery of her disappearance. The sudden vanishing of Annie Lay, a bright and cautious young woman with a promising future, sent shockwaves through her community. As the hours turned into a desperate search for answers, her friends, family, and authorities began piecing together the events of that fateful day, hoping to uncover the truth behind her unsettling absence. It seemed Annie had intended only a brief visit to the lab on September 8, 2009, planning to return to her office soon afterward. She left all her personal belongings behind, taking with her only her access card. Security footage confirmed her entering the building at 10:11 a.m., appearing calm and carrying what looked like research materials. The video showed no signs of distress in Annie's demeanor. She moved at a normal pace, not hurried or anxious, and didn't stop to interact with anyone suspicious. To anyone watching, it was just another routine day for Annie. Unfortunately, the lab was located in the basement where only one operational camera was installed. Strangely, there was no footage of Annie leaving the basement. The camera stationed there didn't capture her movements after she entered. Yale University, known for its academic prestige and long-standing history, was now gripped by fear and uncertainty. The mysterious vanishing of one of its most promising PhD students cast a shadow over the campus, leaving students and faculty alike searching for answers while holding on to hope that Annie would be found safe. Annie's disappearance quickly captured national attention, with journalists flooding Yale's campus in search of details. The investigation was led by a team of around 100 law enforcement officers from Yale, New Haven, and the state of Connecticut, all working tirelessly to uncover the truth. In response to the media frenzy, the university urged students to refrain from speaking with reporters, fearing that misinformation could harm the community's morale and tarnish the university's reputation. Speculation surrounding Annie's disappearance ran rampant. Some theorized she might have gotten cold feet about her impending wedding and fled. However, those close to Annie dismissed these claims as baseless. She and her family had been meticulously planning her wedding for over a year, and Annie was known for her thoughtful and considerate nature, never acting impulsively or irresponsibly. On September 12th, forensic experts conducted a more thorough examination of the lab building, particularly focusing on room G13, where Annie had been seen last. During this search, faint bloodstains were discovered on one of the walls. Meanwhile, in room G22, investigators found beads scattered across the storage area. These were later identified as part of a necklace Annie often wore. As the search intensified, more disturbing clues came to light. In the ceiling space of room G22, investigators uncovered a blood-stained sock and a blue latex glove. Using luminol, a chemical that reveals traces of blood, the forensic team discovered bluish glows under the light, indicating diluted blood splatters across room G13 and the adjacent room G22. These findings painted a chilling picture of what might have happened. The investigation then led authorities to the men's changing area and a nearby bathroom. A foul odor in the vicinity prompted them to deploy a cadaver dog to aid in the search. The smell suggested the presence of a decomposing body, but the source remained elusive. With these findings, the entire building was sealed off, transforming from a hub of scientific research into the scene of a horrifying crime. On September 13th, 2009, the day that should have marked Annie's joyous wedding, the investigation reached a devastating conclusion. Police discovered her decomposing body stuffed upside down into a wall cavity where the building's water pipes were located, near room G22. The tragic irony of the date, meant to be one of the happiest of her life, was not lost on anyone. The news shattered Annie's family and fiancé, who had held on to hope until the grim discovery. Instead of celebrating a new chapter in her life, they faced the unbearable task of identifying her body. What should have been a day of love and happiness became a day of profound grief and heartbreak. The discovery of Annie's body shocked the Yale community and beyond. What began as a missing person case had transformed into a murder investigation, casting a dark shadow over one of the nation's most prestigious universities and leaving the world stunned by the senseless loss of such a promising young life. The discovery of Annie's body revealed the horrifying extent of the crime. Her petite frame had been crushed and forcibly concealed behind the narrow wall of the laboratory. The autopsy concluded that Annie's cause of death was asphyxiation. Further examination revealed she had sustained a broken jaw and collarbone, injuries inflicted while she was still alive. Evidence also suggested that Annie might have been sexually assaulted, adding another layer of tragedy to the brutal crime. Near her body, investigators found Annie's access card, a medical glove, and a blue pen, all of which were collected as evidence. DNA samples were taken from her clothing and the surrounding area and sent for analysis. The discovery devastated the Yale community, leading thousands to gather for a candlelight vigil to honor Annie's memory and offer support to her grieving family. Annie's death deeply unsettled the campus, leaving a lasting impact on the students' sense of security. The university took immediate action, sending out emails to inform students about enhanced mental health counseling services and the establishment of a 24/7 support hotline for emotional assistance. The administration also ramped up campus security to address the pervasive. The second individual identified through the access logs was Raymond Clark, a 24-year-old lab technician. Ray's earlier statement to police claiming he had seen Annie leave the building on the day of her disappearance immediately cast suspicion on him. Security footage, however, contradicted his claim, showing that Annie never exited the building. Ray's reputation as a short-tempered and meticulous worker only heightened suspicions. He was known to become visibly upset if lab spaces were left untidy. Although Ray and Annie were not close, their only notable interaction occurred a few weeks before her murder. Ray had emailed Annie to complain about her failure to clean up mouse cages after conducting experiments. Beyond this minor exchange, they had no significant relationship, which made the circumstances surrounding his actions even more perplexing. Several of Ray's colleagues defended him, describing him as disciplined, serious, and approachable. Despite his demanding nature at work, Ray had no history of criminal behavior or violent tendencies. However, the investigation revealed a startling detail. Between 10:40 a.m. and 3:45 p.m. on September 8, 2009, Ray had accessed rooms G13 and G22 a staggering 55 times. This was corroborated by swipe card logs and security footage, raising serious questions about his movements that day. The security cameras also captured Ray leaving the building alongside others during the fire alarm evacuation and returning at 1:10 p.m. Upon his return, he was seen wandering around the basement area, and it appeared he had changed his uniform. Later, footage showed him exiting the building again and sitting on a step outside with his head in his hands, seemingly distressed. When Ray was interrogated a second time, police noticed fresh scratches on his face and arms, along with bruises that hadn't been present earlier. When questioned about these injuries, Ray claimed they were caused by a cat. The police administered a polygraph test, which Ray failed miserably, further solidifying their suspicions. However, lie detector results are not legally admissible as evidence, and the police could not arrest him based solely on the test's outcome. Despite their growing certainty that Ray was involved, the investigators needed concrete evidence to proceed. They collected a DNA sample from Ray and released him while waiting for the results. The delay only increased tension as the community remained anxious for justice and closure. Finally, in the early hours of September 17, 2009, the DNA results came back and confirmed Ray's involvement in Annie's murder. Police obtained a warrant for his arrest. Swarms of law enforcement descended on Ray's residence, lodging house number 8, transforming the area into a flurry of activity. Officers set up barriers to secure the scene as FBI agents swiftly entered room number 24, where Ray was staying. With the arrest imminent, the investigation reached a critical turning point. The once elusive suspect, who had evaded capture through lies and half-truths, was now facing justice for the horrific crime that had shaken the Yale community and beyond. When police entered Ray Clark's residence, they found him and his father quietly having breakfast. The officers swiftly handcuffed Ray, leaving his father stunned and confused. DNA evidence had conclusively linked Ray to Annie's murder, leaving no doubt about his culpability. Following the arrest, police obtained a warrant to search Ray's home and workspace, uncovering critical evidence. Among the items seized were his lab uniform and shoes, both stained with Annie's blood, and blue pins matching the one found near her body. The investigation pieced together a chilling sequence of events. Police believed Annie was murdered just before the fire alarm sounded. During the struggle, Ray likely triggered the alarm by accident. With the building evacuated, he left with the crowd but returned shortly afterward to move Annie's body. He concealed it in a wall cavity in room G22, attempting to hide his crime before resuming his workday as though nothing had happened. The combination of DNA evidence, Ray's swipe card logs, and the forensic discoveries left no doubt about his guilt. Investigators concluded that they had sufficient evidence to convict Ray. With public speculation about Ray's motive ran rampant, some theorized that Ray might have been secretly infatuated with Annie and was driven into a jealous rage upon learning about her impending marriage and departure from the lab. However, this theory was dismissed by many as Ray was already engaged to another woman at the time. Furthermore, colleagues insisted there was no romantic connection between him and Annie. Others speculated that Ray's motive stemmed from his controlling and obsessive nature. Known for being meticulous about cleanliness and order in the lab, Ray may have felt resentment toward the research students, viewing them as disrespectful to his work. His frustration might have built up over time, culminating in a tragic outburst that led to Annie's murder. These theories, however, remained conjecture as Ray never offered any insight into his state of mind. Despite the lack of a clear motive, the evidence against Ray was overwhelming. In March 2011, after numerous court delays, Ray pleaded guilty to murder. He expressed remorse for his actions but provided no explanation for why he killed Annie. His guilty plea spared Annie's family the anguish of a protracted trial, but it did little to answer the lingering question, why? Ray was sentenced to 44 years in prison for the murder of Annie Lee. He is expected to serve his sentence until 2053, at which point he will be 68 years old. While the sentence brought some measure of justice, it could never undo the loss of Annie's vibrant and promising life. Annie's family and friends were left to grapple with their grief and the senselessness of her death. They chose to honor her memory by focusing on the extraordinary person she was. A brilliant, kind, and loving individual who touched countless lives, Annie's fiancé, Jonathan, and her family expressed their hope that her legacy would be remembered for her achievements and her warm spirit, rather than the tragic way her life ended. The Yale community also struggled to heal from the tragedy. Annie's death was a stark reminder of how fragile safety can be, even in places dedicated to learning and growth. Her story became a symbol of resilience, inspiring renewed focus on campus safety and mental health resources for students and staff. Though Annie's life was cut short in an unimaginably cruel way, her family vowed to keep her memory alive. To them, she would always remain the bright, ambitious little girl who grew up to inspire everyone around her. As one family member poignantly said, Annie will forever live on in our hearts and prayers, as the wonderful person she was and will always be. Even as the years pass, Annie's story continues to serve as a reminder of the fragility of life and the importance of cherishing our loved ones. While her family and friends mourn her loss, they also celebrate the incredible person she was, ensuring that her legacy will never be forgotten. The case of Annie Le is a heartbreaking reminder of how fragile life can be and the importance of vigilance, even in places we consider safe. Annie's story is not just about tragedy, but also about resilience and the lasting impact of a bright and promising life cut short. It reminds us to cherish our loved ones and advocate for safety and justice in all spaces. Thank you for watching this Reddit story. If you found it engaging, please consider subscribing, leaving a comment, and sharing it with others. Your support helps us share more compelling stories like this. Stay safe, stay kind, and we'll be back with another story soon.